How can I get influence? The question I'm sure we've all asked ourselves at least at some point in State of Decay 2. That little number up the top that can make our playthroughs just that little bit easier. But what's the best ways to get it? What's the most optimal strategies? And how much can we really make in just a few minutes of these methods? We'll be getting into all of that today. Yes, today we'll go over 3 of the best influence farms you can easily set up, the pros and cons of each, and how much we can make in just 10 minutes of each method. I should also say that every 10-minute test will be performed in lethal, just to show how effective and easy these methods can be, and that you can do them on any difficulty. I'm not going to waste your time at all, so let's just start this off and jump straight into method 1. Here's what you need for method 1, the parts method. You'll need a level 1 workshop, 20 parts and a character with chemistry. Not a lot of big requirements, which makes this method even better. So how does this work? What do we do? Well, all you need to do is go to the workshop. It doesn't matter if it's in person or through the home base screen. But what you do is craft some rolls of firecrackers. Then go to your supply locker and scrap them. It's that simple. What happens is you craft the firecrackers for 20 parts and then scrap them for 25. 5 parts profit. And I know some of you will be saying, that sounds terrible. There's way better money making methods, but hold on, don't be so hasty. Every part you make is 1 influence, which you made out of thin air. And how long does it take to craft these, do you reckon? 5 seconds, if that? And bear in mind this scenario is from lethal zone, and you would get a much better return on your parts in any lower difficulty that you're in. So let's see how much influence we can really get from this method after 10 minutes of grinding. And there we have it. In just 10 minutes this method managed to net us 2,500 parts. It's up to you if you want to keep some of them for repairing, salvaging weapons, but if you're selling them, which of course you probably will be, I mean that's the whole point of this video, right? Each part sells for 1 influence, which I know may be laughable to some of you, but when you add it up, 2,500 influence isn't so bad for 10 minutes work. But we can make this even better with installing a certain facility mod into the base. The salvage furnace. Now I'm sure most of you know what this does, but for those who don't, what it does is give you 50% more return when scrapping things for parts. We can also stack other effects on top of this, such as demolitions or electronics. I managed to stack enough effects to give me 8 parts per firecracker, which is double what we had last time. So I did another 10-minute test with a slightly more optimal strategy to see how much we'd make with all these bonuses included. And I managed to make roughly 8,000 parts, which after selling would be 8,000 influence of course. I made so many in fact it went past the max we can show on screen here, 9,999. Now what I like about this method is its simplicity. It doesn't require much, you can do it at about any stage in the game and on any difficulty. You don't need to leave your base, it can solve your parts problem, you can spam it to your heart's content, and it creates something out of nothing, which is the perfect solution to your bare bones lethal survivals. That is a lot of bonuses. In fact, there's probably even more that I haven't even thought of. The only real downsides I can think of is you have to sell your parts off to enclaves and traders in order to receive your influence, which could maybe get problematic, but don't worry. I've got a solution to that problem at the end of the video. And it's also a very active method, meaning it requires your full attention to pull off. But if you're wanting a more laid back, automatic system, maybe this next method is for you. In this second method, the siege method, we only really need one thing, a home base. Now the home base we need is very specific. In fact, only 2 bases in the entire game will work for this, and that's the Church on the Hill in Cascade Hills, and Whitney Field in Meager Valley. But why these 2 bases, eh? What's so special about them? Well, it's to do with the built-in feature they have. Both of them have the ability to draw in a zombie siege, which is a money-making machine. What you do is simple. Draw in the siege using the feature, survive the siege and the influence will be given to you straight away. The ability has no cooldown, meaning you can infinitely repeat this process, which is brilliant, and the influence you get will always stay the same. Now I imagine most of you will have fought a siege before and you'll know that they can get tough. But we can make sieges much safer and faster by just paying close attention to this bar here, the noise bar. The higher it is, the more dangerous it looks, the worse sieges will be. I mean, you can see on screen here how frantic the sieges can get. They can also take up to 3 minutes, which is not optimal at all. But if we keep the noise level low, sieges will be very easy and will only take a minute, much more efficient. The beauty of completing the sieges is that once a siege is complete, your noise level is reduced by a significant amount, normally dependent on how many community members you have at the time. For example, a community of 8 would get a noise reduction of 8, and this stacks with every siege you do. So if you did 2 sieges back to back, you'd get a noise reduction of 16, and that's an easy way to reduce noise. Now there used to be a facility in the game that would make this method so incredibly efficient, the Haven device. This was a Trumbull Valley map exclusive item that used to insta-kill zombies of any type whenever they got into your base's map border. It did it automatically, and it could even kill juggernauts, although they could resist it for slightly longer. The Haven device was so good, or it was until the update 33 happened. Now it can only kill a handful of zombies at a slower rate than before, the range is reduced, and the most noticeable change is that after a small amount of the machine's help it has to recharge, which takes about 15 to 20 minutes. It's a shell of its former glory. It could slightly help you with this influence farm, but it's definitely not required in any way. I think this method is great because it doesn't require much to set up, the influence goes directly to you without the need of any enclaves or traders, and if you have a safe enough base, it's a very relaxed method. You could even go AFK, although do that at your own risk, especially on lethal zone. The bad thing about this method is only 2 bases in the game allow you to do this, which obviously limits your base creativity and your map choice is very limited. I can't really think of any other negatives with this method though. It does make less than the parts method, but it is a lot less work and focus. It's also a good method for those who like optimisation, and if you like to optimise your strategy, this third and final method might just be for you. And now we have our third method, map hopping. This is definitely the most simple, basic method of the 3, but does it make it the most effective? Well, I guess we'll find out. We only need one thing for this method, and that's a level 2 command center. And I guess a car would be nice too. What you do is, loot everything on the map you think is valuable. Say, every barrel with cases of chemicals, rare weapons cases, even things you think your community will need like materials and ammo. Then either swap maps or reset the map you're currently on. You'll keep everything you have, resources, items in your supply locker, parked cars, everything, but you'll get to loot all these places again, almost like a reset button. In my 10-minute test I decided to loot only cases of chemicals because they sell for a lot and their spawns are guaranteed. Once I looted a few locations close to the house, I would head to a region exit point and reset the map. Then do it all over again until the 10 minutes was up. In my 10 minutes, I managed to gather 131 cases of chemicals. Each chemical sells for approximately 9 influence. This can be lower or higher depending on some circumstances like enclave status and curveballs like news travels. But this means that the method can make roughly 1200 influence in 10 minutes. Now of course that all depends on how well you know the map you're playing on, where the best possible looting spots are, and how to make it as optimal for yourself as possible. But what I think is great about this method is that the possibilities and strategies you could have are endless. It's completely individual to you what you decide to map hop for, what you prioritise, how fast and safe you can make it. I think another main advantage is you're basically just playing the game normally. You're exploring, killing, looting, trading, enjoying the game for what it is, whilst making some very nice influence on the side. But the downsides are that it is a lot of work. You're constantly on the go, and you have no idea what you may run into. The loot is also random, for the most part, and similar to method 1, the parts method, you'll have to find an enclave or a trader to buy your precious resources. But what if we combined all these methods to get the most optimal influence farm possible? The setup would be simple. We would need either Whitney Field or the Church on the Hill, a level 1 workshop with a salvage furnace, a character with chemistry, and at least 20 parts. This would be the bare minimum we need. But to make the system a lot more optimal, we could block a lot of entrances and base weak points with cars, get as many guards as we can and equip them all with top tier weaponry, find any other bonuses to scrapping parts you can, install the Clio Haven device just for a little bit of help, and most importantly, to have a low noise level. Each siege would take just under a minute, although the startup time would be a minute as well, so 2 minutes total. During that time you would make and scrap firecrackers, making sure to start up the siege once every 2 minutes and keep yourself safe during it. You can do this as long as you want, but from the tests I've already done, you should make about 9,000 parts in just 10 minutes, which is incredible. But how do we sell all these parts that we made? What's the most optimal solution for that? Well, I've got a couple of ideas here which could make your situation a little bit better. The first one, and probably the most obvious, would be to build a trade depot. It does cost quite a lot, and you need a trader community leader to build it, but once it's built, you can call in 6 different traders to your base for a small price, selling you valuable resources of any type. Every trader has 500 influence on hand, which increases when you buy an item and decreases when you sell an item. Think of this like money. The trader only has 500 money to buy parts from us, and once they run out, they can't buy any more. But this is an incredibly easy method. The influence essentially comes to you, and you can even use these guys as guards during the sieges. The only downside is that they cost a small amount to bring to your base, but that's a small price to pay for what they can do for you. The second option I have is to call in new enclaves to the map. Looking for or calling in new enclaves is always a viable strat. Cheap to do, permanent traders, and potential for ally bonuses. What's not to like? And if you ever see a rare skills trader or mysterious wandering trader show up, drop everything you're doing and get to them straight away, because they have around 3,000 influence in their pockets before you even buy anything, meaning you can make 3,000 influence profit from one guy, which is extremely efficient. So there you have it, folks. 3 brilliant money making methods in State of Decay 2 that work to this day. And if we combine them, we get even better results. 9,000 influence in just 10 minutes to be specific. Let me know in the comments if you'll give any of these methods a go, or any methods you've picked up on your journey so far.